Alright, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing well wherever you're seeing this. So today I wanted to take the time to talk about just a topic that is very prevalent nowadays that I have quite a bit of thoughts about. Not every video I make is always going to talk about my personal experiences. It'll just be about my thoughts on the world after a lot of the things that I've gone through. So today I wanted to take the time to talk about AI, technology, and social media, because I mentioned in the last video that I don't like social media. I don't really have any personal social media. Wanted to talk about that as well, though mostly AI. So AI technology has become very, very prominent in specifically these past 3 years. I'm mostly talking about generative AI, of course, and I have some pretty strong thoughts about today's topic, so I wanted to make a video about that. So it started off innocent with ChatGPT, right, with people just using simple prompts to, I don't know, ask it for a recipe or something like that. But it's now gotten way, way too out of hand at this point. And I am kind of anti-AI, I guess. I understand that AI has uses. It can be very useful for a lot of different corporations, all of that. I understand it could even be useful, as they say, in the medical field for compiling information from databases. But I think that the easy access that the public has to AI is way too much, to the point where it's being misused a lot. And I really don't think that the public should have as easy access to AI as we do, because anybody can just make a ChatGPT account. But the thing is that AI is actually a really simple piece of technology, but it can do a lot, and it can very easily be misused, because I truly feel as though it's so common, but most people don't even actually know what AI even really does. Generative AI, they just enter prompts and ask it for things. But I think it's always very important to actually know what the things you're consuming even do, the things that you use every day, anything that you use regularly. If you're just using it or adhering to it blindly, I think that's a very dangerous thing. I think you should know what it is that it does. What is the purpose of this thing? The purpose of AI is to compile, collect, and sample and identify information based on the prompts that you ask it. And because of that, it's not meant to replace human behavior, thought, and speech, because it is a result of human behavior, thought, and speech. They've even said for AI art, for example, we're going to talk more about AI art in a minute, but AI art, for example, there are some AI art that's actually been flagged for plagiarism, because it has directly taken artwork from already existing art, because that's exactly what it does. You ask it for a prompt, it searches the entire internet databases, any piece of information, pools of information it can find, and it just collects all that information, presents it to you. And that's why I think that it can be very useful, but because of simplicity, it can be used very, very easily. And I truly feel as though most people don't even know what AI even does, because AI, the issue with it is that it's because of how simple it is, it can't be patented very easily. So anybody you can easily just go on the App Store and find some app that has easy access to AI, and students are misusing it as well. You guys have probably seen all those news reports about students misusing AI, because it makes it so that people are not thinking for themselves, which is an incredibly disastrous thing. Not the ability to think for yourself, that's such an important thing. If you just use some piece of technology to cheat your way out of that, you're really gonna screw yourself over. They're actually saying this wasn't, I don't know if this is directly correlated to AI, but it definitely has to be, at least a little bit. But I watched a short video, right, on how students are apparently getting less and less intelligent. And this University of San Diego, I believe, they conducted a study, right? And it turns out that a huge portion of their incoming students, I don't know the exact numbers, so I mean, I'm probably not the most reputable to say this, but if you guys can find a video, you can look it up. A huge portion of students needed to take a remedial math course because they couldn't even do basic math, right? They didn't even know what 66 plus 44 was. University students didn't know what 66 plus 44 was, and most of them got that wrong. They didn't know. There was a question that was put, and this specifically, this is why I mentioned thinking for yourself. 7 plus 2 equals blank plus 6, right? And you have to find out what x plus 6 is, right? 7 plus 2 equals blank plus 6, right? And most students, x equals 3, right? Most students couldn't get that correct. Most students got that wrong because of, I believe, the way the question was posed, the way it was structured, right? Because if it's not outright, just directly, so when it comes to having to think outside of the box, having to think outside of what is already told you, most students just couldn't do that. They needed things to be absolutely spelled out to them. In general, people these days need everything to just be spelled out to them, because they just don't know how to think for themselves. They don't know how to be creative thinkers. And this is, I think, a big reason why advancements in technology, I understand that the whole point is that it's supposed to make things easier for the next generation. But I think what you have to understand is that you can only make things so much easier, because hardship and struggle is always a very important aspect to just being human at all. Nobody can live a life where everything is just perfectly easy. I understand that it should at least be easier than it was for our forefathers, right? We shouldn't have to struggle so badly just when we're young, right? I understand that, but to make things so easy to the point where it just makes it so that you don't even have to think for yourself, that's really just going to cause more harm than good. And then your attempt to make things easy, it'll just come back around to making things difficult in turn. And that's, I think, the reason why it's always important to challenge yourself. It's always important to consume good content. It's always important to question things and train your brain, flex that muscle, I guess the mental muscle, whatever you want to call it. I think that's very important. And I mentioned AI art. When it comes to AI art, I hate AI art more than anything. I don't know what it is about AI art. I've noticed that it makes me kind of nauseous looking at it. And I don't mean, oh, it's so bad, I want to vomit. No, I mean, literally, it just gives me a weird feeling to my stomach. And I'm not a person who has a weak stomach or anything. I think I can handle some pretty really distressing material. I think I can. Really distressing, very, okay, this is gonna sound cringe, but really gory videos. I don't mean to sound like one of those people who brag about watching gore, but I think I can sit through that kind of stuff. I don't have a weak stomach or anything, but AI art is just something about it that I just hate so much. And it's just so, and AI artists, in my opinion, are pretty pathetic people. You see on social media, under profiles, they always say a digital creator. You're not a creator. You didn't make anything. You just typed in prompts. And it's hilarious to hear how some of them will justify writing and structuring prompts as the same as having to actually study art. And because I have my best friend, right? He studies art, and he's trying to start his own art business and everything. And he even studies anatomy and all of that. He's self-taught. And I truly believe that art, in my opinion, especially based on what he has told me, art, in my opinion, is probably one of the hardest disciplines to actually get really, really good at, let alone make money off of it. And even I used to be into drawing back when I was in high school. I used to really like drawing when I was a kid. I don't really do any of that anymore. But yeah, I used to be really into drawing. And even I kind of tried to learn some more advanced things, how to color gradients, right? Having one color merge into another color, that kind of thing. And what else? How to draw folding on clothes, all of that. Even I tried, and it's difficult. It's really not easy at all. It takes years and years and years of practice, and artists have this thing. My friend told me about this, how you will always look back at your old work, no matter how good people say it is, and you will always think it's garbage. Artists have such high standards. So I respect artists a lot. I respect their craft a lot, because I know nothing. I know I said I used to draw and I used to try to learn and get better, but I still know literally nothing, even with all I did learn. And I don't want to say I was above average, definitely not, but I was just, I wasn't a complete amateur. I did actually try to learn and everything, but even I still don't know anything about art. I'm nowhere near close to my friend or anybody like him. I could never make money off of art or anything like that. But that's why I get pretty pissed off whenever I see people call themselves digital creator, because I understand the whole prompts thing. They say that you have to structure your prompts and know how to write prompts, but that's not anything near having to actually study anatomy and how to shade and color gradients and all of that. It's not even a little bit close. So it really does piss me off a bit. But that's just it. AI is making people weaker. It's making them rely less on their own abilities and more on some other thing outside of them that's not their own efforts. And the other thing about AI is that I honestly think that it's going to cause some huge mess up at one point. I even remember hearing for somebody in my family told me, I believe this happened in Australia. The Australian government commissioned this company to make something for them, and they used AI mostly, and AI messed it up, and the government funded them, I think, 400 grand, and that company now has to end up paying a huge sum of that money back to that government because they screwed it up. And I remember hearing somebody say that they know somebody who is in IT, right, coding, all of that, the computer programming, computer science, all of that, and they write code for the military, and they just use ChatGPT, and they're a team leader as well. They're a team leader. They to lead a whole team of coders, right? And they're training the whole team to do this exact same thing. They basically just write the whole thing in ChatGPT, spend a few minutes looking it over, and then they just send it. It's bound to cause some huge mess at one point, and it's just getting there at some point. I really do think so. And I really think it's making people a lot weaker, because I really think that the only people who should have access to generative AI in the form that we have it, and let alone, of course, more advanced versions, is the government, the medical field, law enforcement, the public sector, in general, businesses, corporations. That's it. The common public and the everyday people like you and me, I don't think we should have such huge access to AI like we do. Maybe nothing at all, ChatGPT and everything, but the ability to create AI images and all these AI videos and AI art technology, any kind of AI technology that is supposed to mimic real movement pictures. It's getting more and more advanced by the day, and the only way you can even really tell it's AI is just some small little things, such as, how ChatGPT has its own writing style. It's important to know that, all of that, right? I watched some AI videos, and of course I knew they were AI because the things that happened in the video were ridiculous, but that's exactly it. That's the only reason why the only way I could tell it was AI. When it comes to the actual video itself, the texture of people's skins on in the video, it looked so realistic. If you were to make realistic events happen, those videos were supposed to be joke videos where something really outlandish is happening that could only happen in an AI video. But if you were to make the events realistic, you could probably fool at least a couple of people. For sure you could, because they look incredibly realistic, and it's only getting more and more advanced by the day, because like I said, it's a very simple piece of technology. It's not that hard to adapt and distribute and even create in the first place. As I also said, any app, you can just go into App Store and find all kinds of AI apps that can make videos and art and all of that. And now there's that Google Gemini thing and everything. So I don't know, because I think AI, it should be treated like a database, kind of, different databases. The police, for example, have a violent crime database, but I don't think the public can just readily access that. It should be like that. It should be a source that can compile information and create whatever is asked of the AI system, but I don't think it should just be distributed to absolutely anyone anywhere. It should function more like a database that only some people have access to, and isn't something that can just readily be accessed on even just the surface web, maybe. I think I already said this, but I don't mean that AI should not be granted at all. Maybe I can have some uses, but to the form that we have it, I think that should be severely limited to the common public. But it's at the point now where it's kind of too late at this point. It's not like you can really do anything about the AI that we already have, and it's pretty disastrous if you do think about it, because like I said, I know it's going to cause a huge mess one day. It's already causing people to become significantly weaker. People are talking to AI chatbots on apps like Character AI to substitute actual real friends because they're lonely as well. I remember reading this Reddit post about somebody marrying an AI, and according to this person, they weren't lonely. They had a good amount of friends, so that's not really the reason. But still, marrying an AI, I mean, you can do your thing, but oh my, I don't even know what to say about that. I don't want to judge other people's walks of life. You're not technically, I guess, hurting anybody, but I'm not sure. That sounds so dystopian, like that scene in Blade Runner 2040. Not scene, I think this is a common thing throughout the movie, actually. Blade Runner 2049, he has an AI girlfriend, I'm pretty sure, in the movie. Something like that. It's just insane to me. And that's it. I don't think that should be as common to people as it is, because really it's making people weaker. It's making students a lot weaker. It's taking over certain jobs. I don't think it will ever take over the entire job market. I've seen people say, "Oh, AI is just gonna take over the job market anyway. So what's the point of?" I think that's kind of a ridiculous thing to say. I don't think it's going to take over literally every job. But I have another friend who works in accounting. Even he said that AI is making a big dent in accounting as well. And certain jobs, such as people who transcribe words into written scripts and everything, for the legal system, for example, those jobs are basically being taken over entirely by AI. And if it makes it easier, okay, sure, but I don't think you should ever try to completely substitute human behavior, because ultimately you will end up shooting yourself in the foot if you are relying more on someone else's effort than yours. But in general, I wanted to also talk about technology and social media. When it comes to technology, I know what I'm about to say is really cringe, and a lot of people are going to groan and roll their eyes, because I'm definitely not the first person to say this, but I do kind of think that technology, as some other people have said, technology was at its best in the 2000s and the early 2010s, after Y2K, all of that. I think that that technology was the best during this era. It was advanced enough that anybody could just go on Google and search anything, but technology was just a tool, and it didn't overtake our lives. There wasn't anything in enough to take over people's lives. That's also what AI is. It's a tool. It's supposed to just be a supplemental tool, like I said, compile, collect information to just give you ideas and frameworks, I guess, but it shouldn't replace entire human behavior, because, like I said, it's a result of human behavior in the first place. But AI technology is just now being used as a way to just, I don't know, cheap your way out of doing the work at this point. But technology in general, I think that it was best in the 2000s and early 2010s, because it was there. It was enough to improve our lives, but it didn't take away from our lives. The mobile phone, for example, I know I'm also going to sound cringe for what I'm saying, but I do kind of think that I wish we could go back to flip phones, because I do kind of truly believe that the smartphone and social media in general, we're going to get to social media in a minute, I do kind of think that these are probably some of the worst things to come out of the past 15 years in the everyday, day-to-day life. I know somebody's gonna go, "Oh yeah, but what about that one terrorist attack in 2016? Yeah, that would probably be the worst thing to come out of the past 15 years. But in the everyday life amongst common people, I'd say that technology and generative AI and smartphone technology, all that social media technology, I honestly think is some of the worst. And I know I don't have the right to complain too much, because even I'm using some of these pieces of technology to even just make this video and post this video, but that's exactly it. I don't think it's necessarily about it should just not exist in the first place. I think it's just that people don't know how to even use it, because your phone is literally just a mini computer at this point, and you can do anything with it. And young people can literally just start a business on their phone, find ways to make money on their phone, but instead they just waste time all day doom scrolling pretty much. And I like I said, I know I sound boring and I sound old or whatever, I sound cringe, I sound boring, but that's how it is, because it's everything is so accessible nowadays. And I think that technology becoming more prevalent makes it so that it shouldn't be about making things easier, as I said. It should just be about making things more prevalent. You can make things more prevalent without making things more easy. You can offer opportunities without literally replacing entire work and entire efforts, right? I don't think that those have to be mutual exclusive things. I think that you can offer sources of information, but like I said, it should just be like a database. It's there, it's a tool that you can use, but ultimately its uses only depends so much on how its use is entirely dependent on whatever work you put into it, and it's only as useful as you will allow it to be, pretty much, because it's, like I said about artificial intelligence, it is dependent on human behavior, speech, thought. It should not be there to replace human behavior, speech, and thought. But yeah, I just think that technology nowadays has gotten a bit too out of hand. I kind of miss how it was back then when things were in the late 2000s, especially. I think that technology just being used as a tool is fine. Your flip phones, it was just there to make calls, and it was just there to make things convenient. But exactly as I just said about opportunity and all that, and prevalence, convenience is one thing, but literally replacing entire pieces of work and effort and making things do the work for you, I don't think that that's what we should be aiming for. But when it comes to social media specifically, and I wanted to talk about social media, I honestly really am not a fan of social media at all. I really think that social media has to be one of the worst things to come out of the past 15 years. As I said, I think that it was nice at first back when we had Facebook and YouTube and MySpace. Most people, kids these days, don't even know what the hell MySpace is. I know I sound really old by saying that, but MySpace, for example, and Facebook and YouTube, all these platforms, where it was just simple and it was just a fun way to share, I don't know, where you went last weekend with your friends and family. But now people are just using social media as ways to promote all kinds of agendas. So short form video platforms are frying people's brains, their dopamine receptors. People can't even pay attention to a 2-minute long video at this point because it doesn't have flashing colors. Yeah, and when it comes to personal social media, I think that it just makes people's insecurities worse. I think it just amplifies people's mental health issues, all of that. I deleted personal social media a while ago because I just couldn't stand it. I think that social media, as I've been saying constantly about technology, it should just be used as a tool, and it should just be used as a way to help us present information, because it can be very much used as a way to, as I said, make money and do all kinds of useful things, but people aren't going to use it that way. And that's how I prefer to use social media. I just prefer to use it to advertise a brand, a business, that kind of thing. But when it comes to having a personal social media, I think that's a waste of time, especially when I see how most people my age use it, how desperate they are for followers and likes and people to look at their photos. I think it's just a huge waste of time. There are people who I know, even though we're past our 20s now, people from high school past their 20s, they still care so much about social media and followers. And something that I've known that a lot of people do is they have apps that let them, third-party apps that let them see who is not following them. And even I used to have one of these apps way back when I was 15, 16, but I grew out of that garbage because I realized that it was cringe. But I guess some people still think that it's okay, I guess. I mean, imagine having an app so you can see who is not following you so that you can unfollow them, because how dare anybody follow you not follow you while you follow them. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I really think that it just makes people weaker. And I'm not sure. It started off simple, as I said, but I think that technology is now just grown to a point where people are becoming mentally weaker. They're relying too much on things outside of themselves. They're not able to even pay attention to simple videos anymore. And I really just think that when it was simpler, things were better, because I'm honestly just tired of hearing AI everywhere. I know it has its uses. I said this before. I know it has its uses. And that's why I said that I think even in business and corporations, it can be really good. I do think it is important to learn how to use AI constructively, right? I think there are even little courses that you can take online, Coursera or whatever, that teach you how to do that. I think that is important, but I do think that some people are just using AI as a cheap way to get out of doing the work. And I'm so tired of hearing, download this AI so that you can easily record your lectures, and then it compiles into this informational thing so that you know everything that was talked about, summarizes your lectures for you. I'm just so tired of all of that, because at the same time, yeah, I know the whole idea of making things easier, but our forefathers did the hard work for a reason, because a lot of it is also just so that you don't regress and you don't just use cheap ways to get out of doing the work, because ultimately you're just going to hurt yourself more by making things constantly easier. And I think a big issue with people my age, young people, teenagers, early 20s, is that we're at a point in history now where we're probably at the most progressive, generally speaking, of course, the most progressive we've ever been. We understand all kinds of things that our forefathers had to take time to figure out. And we have so much pieces of information laid out for us already, to the point where a lot of young people, I feel like what they think is that there is no more need for us to continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to advance, because we already have so much figured out already. But we already know that racism is wrong. We already know that sexism is wrong. We already know that women should be allowed to vote. So what do we have to fight for? But I think that this is a really unhealthy mentality. And I think if anything, if things have been figured out for us and laid out for us, that means that if anything, we should be working. We should be taking those tools and using them. And we should be trying to take advantage of what has already been given to us, instead of just acting as if it's already figured out. It's okay. We don't need to do anything else, because I mean, there's so much we still have not learned. There's so many diseases that have still not been cured yet. We still very much have a lot to learn. We have a lot of areas to grow and improve in. I really don't think that it's fair to just say, oh, well, it's figured out. I mean, yeah, sure, we can search up any information we want. It's all at our fingertips. But I think it's very important to constantly try to work and constantly try to learn and gain more information and knowledge. I don't think it's okay to just become complacent based on the things that have already been created for us, because those things have been created for us in the first place because people sought to find those answers. And for the generation after us, we're also going to have answers for them. What are we going to tell them? And then what are they going to be able to tell the generation after that? You have to think of these things. But I guess that's really all I have to say on the matter. I like I said, I know I sound a bit too much like a doomer. I sound like I just hate AI completely. I do think that, as I've said many times, it can be useful, but I think people are just way too reliant on AI, and more than they ever should be. But that's about it. You guys can tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.